So you might be wondering, why are men generally stronger on an absolute basis? Well, it comes down to this. 97% of those absolute strength differences are attributed simply to starting muscle mass. Women genetically start out smaller, with less muscle and a bit more body fat. If you take a man and a woman with the exact same starting muscle mass, there's a very good chance they'll have the exact same absolute strength. It's really just about starting size, not some fundamental flaw in. All right, athletes, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tearing up the old locker room myths and breaking down the exact game plan for optimizing your workouts based on strict science. If you've ever wondered exactly how human physiology dictates the way men and women should hit the gym, you are in the perfect place. We're going to look at the data, build a solid strategy, and get you ready to execute. So let me ask you something right off the bat. Do guys and girls actually need totally fundamentally different workout routines? It's a question that's literally been debated on the gym floor for decades. A lot of folks just assume that male and female physiologies are so vastly different that their playbook shouldn't even look the same. Well, today we're putting that assumption to the test, calling an audible on the bro science, and looking at what the actual research tells us. Here's our playbook for today's session. First up, the pre-game brief, then muscle building potential, followed by tactical tweaks for recovery, managing fatigue and tempo, upper versus lower body, and finally, your final game plan. All right, section 1, the pre-game brief, setting the baseline. Before we can run any advanced plays, we absolutely have to clear the field of the biggest mental block, keeping so many athletes from reaching peak performance. We've got to kill this myth once and for all. The fear that lifting heavy weights will instantly make a woman look bulky, thick, or overly masculine, it's just bad scouting. Lifting weights actually builds that lean, toned look that so many athletes are chasing. The reality is, building a monstrous Hulk-like physique generally requires steroids or an incredibly advanced grueling training and nutrition protocol entirely dedicated to getting massive. Just lifting heavy and pushing yourself isn't going to accidentally turn you into a bodybuilder overnight. Lifting weights is, hands down, your best tool for athletic conditioning, period. Moving to section 2, muscle building potential, the baseline rules. Let's dig into the baseline rules of muscle growth and address the big hormonal elephant in the room. Check out this massive number, 15 times. On average, men naturally have about 15 times more testosterone than women. For the longest time, locker room logic dictated that because of this huge gap, women just couldn't build muscle effectively. It was assumed their potential for growth was pretty much bottom tier. But biology has a few trick plays up its sleeve, and honestly, that assumption is just completely untrue. To bust this wide open, let's bring in our expert scouts. Scientific author Menno Henselmans points out something totally fascinating. He states, most research indicates that women and men actually have the exact same relative growth potential. Listen to that again, the exact same relative growth potential. So despite that 15 times difference in testosterone, the fundamental biological machinery needed to trigger muscle growth is incredibly similar between the sexes. And the data completely backs this up. A 2001 study looking at responses to strength training found literally zero difference in muscle gain between men and women after 6 solid months. Now sure, the literature does have a little bit of conflict. Scientific fitness author Lyle McDonald suggests women can expect roughly 50 to 100% of the muscle gain of men. So while the exact number gets debated among the experts, the real takeaway for you as an athlete is crystal clear. A woman's overall propensity to build muscle is incredibly high, way higher than those old myths would have you believe. So you might be wondering, why are men generally stronger on an absolute basis? Well, it comes down to this. 97% of those absolute strength differences are attributed simply to starting muscle mass. Women genetically start out smaller, with less muscle and a bit more body fat. If you take a man and a woman with the exact same starting muscle mass, there's a very good chance they'll have the exact same absolute strength. It's really just about starting size, not some fundamental flaw in female physiology. Section 3, tactical tweaks for recovery. Now that we've leveled the playing field, let's look at a major hidden superpower in female physiology. Remember that 15 times testosterone advantage men have? Well, flip the script because women have about 9 times more estrogen than men. And in the world of sport science and recovery, this completely changes the game. Estrogen is essentially a biological performance enhancer when we're talking about recovery. This estrogen advantage includes boosting metabolic health, improving how the body handles glucose, significantly accelerating muscular repair after a tough workout, and preventing catabolism, which basically means it stops your body from breaking down its own muscle tissue. Women get to reap all the rewards of this hormone, meaning they bounce back from grueling sessions much faster than guys do. So, as your coach, how do we translate this science into an actionable play? Well, because women recover faster, step one is to increase sets and reps per workout. Step two is to increase your total workouts per week. Training volume is tightly correlated with increases in size and strength. Assuming all else is equal, women actually can, and absolutely should, do a higher volume of work than men to maximize their results. You can handle the workload, so put it into play. Section 4. Managing fatigue and tempo. Let's see how both sexes handle the burn during a really grueling set. It turns out women have a serious edge when it comes to fatigue resistance. The research shows women have better blood flow and superior muscle perfusion. In plain English, that means fatigue-inducing metabolites, the stuff that makes your muscles burn and eventually give out, are cleared out of a woman's muscles way more efficiently. Plus, women have a greater proportional area of slow type 1 muscle fibers. These are the fibers specifically built for endurance tasks. This means women are naturally built to push through higher reps with a lot less fatigue. So here is the direct comparison for your pacing strategy. The male advantage typically leans toward explosive, fast tempos with a more forceful positive movement, but they require longer rest periods between sets to recover. The female advantage? Pure endurance. Women excel with slower tempos, higher reps at a given intensity, and crucially, they can get away with much shorter rest periods. Now, obviously, as a smart athlete, you shouldn't think in pure black and white. Men should still run some slow-tempo, high-rep plays, and women should definitely still include explosive work. But playing to your biological strengths means adjusting your primary tempo and rest to match your physiology. All right, Section 5, upper versus lower body. This is our final tactical tweak, and it's all about how strength is distributed across the body. Data from a 1993 paper shows female strength as a percentage of male strength. In the upper body, women possess about 50% of the strength of men, but in the lower body, that jumps up to 66%. This clear discrepancy totally explains why so many women absolutely dominate leg day and tend to enjoy training legs more than men do. They're biologically predisposed to be relatively better at it. So make sure you recognize this discrepancy when you're programming your splits and managing your own expectations. Finally, Section 6, your final game plan. Team, bring it in for the final huddle. How do all these specific, tactical tweaks fit into your big picture? Your core coaching philosophy is this. The primary driver of growth, which is mechanical tension, does not discriminate based on gender. Yes, we talked about women having better recoverability, lower fatigability, and discrepancies in upper versus lower body strength, but at the end of the day, those are just minor tactical tweaks. The vast majority of fundamental musculoskeletal physiology applies to both sexes equally. To build muscle, you have to apply mechanical tension. You have to lift challenging weight. That rule is the exact same for every single person on the floor. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Now that you have the playbook, are you ready to stop training based on locker room myths and start building your ultimate science-backed routine? You know your physiological advantages. You know you aren't going to accidentally get bulky. You know you can handle a volume, push the endurance, and absolutely crush leg day. Take these plays, get into the gym, and execute. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go put in the work.